Landeskog is out 3 months.
3
That's what it
months.
says. 12 weeks. Oh, there he is. Perfect.
Nice.
Yo,
Hey, what's up, Tomas?
Hey, man.
boys.
Go. It's all you this hour.
No.
Go.
Hold on.
No, just joking. Just joking.
Before we do that, let's do our intro. Like, what do you guys want to talk about tonight? I have a bunch of things written down, but it's open to anybody that wants to add something. The things I wrote down were, the Matt Murray injury and any other notable injuries. Like we mentioned, Ekblad went down today, and I think he's on LTIR today. We also have the Sheldon Keefe comments after the Arizona game, and then the comments that came out today that kind of backtracked on those comments. And I
Okay.
also put surprises so far. So if we want to talk about any other surprises in the league so far, just a general, it doesn't have to be any specific teams, but like if we want to mention the Flyers, or if we want to mention how
Sure.
poorly Vancouver's doing, or anything else that comes to mind so far. I mean, it's only been a week, but it's our
What
opportunity to
about
throw it out.
you, Giancarlo? You got like a little brief recap on the Pens?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, and welcome to the show. This week, we discussed the slow start of the Toronto Maple Leafs, including some injury troubles and some interesting comments made by their head coach in the media. Is this just a slow start for the blue and white, or are there troubled waters ahead for the coach and/or management team? We also discussed some surprises in this young NHL season, including the Philadelphia Flyers. And lastly, our four Fanatics will give you our early Stanley Cup predictions for this season, as well as some other random banter. The season is off to a flying start, and as usual, we're ready to share our views and perspectives with all of you. So please, take a load off, relax, and welcome to Hockey for Fanatics. Oh, it's hard to, like I said to you before, it's a loose team this year. There's not much else I can say. I have zero expectations for them, so I
Hmm.
just watch the players on an individual basis. So I look at those performances. So I don't really look
What
at the
about
results of the player.
Vancouver,
Yeah.
though?
Oh,
Vancouver's
thank
in.
God.
Oh my goodness, that is.
Vancouver's broken. They broke an NHL record. What do you mean?
But not even that. Like people are talking about Sheldon Keefe's comments. Can you imagine if Sheldon Keefe said what Boudreaux said? Like I don't even
I didn't
know.
catch
Like
that. What did Boudreaux say?
he basically said that they're just weak. Like they're um just like what was the exact words? Hold on. I gotta find the exact words. I
Yeah,
don't wanna
yeah. You don't want to misquote
paraphrase
it.
him.
Sure.
He did
Yeah.
say he did say they're trying. He didn't make it sound like they weren't giving an effort, but
Oh no, he said something really harsh, which is funny. Hold on.
I don't think I
Boudreaux.
caught that either.
Okay. I found it right now. It says they're mentally weak after their
There it
collapse. Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Mentally
Wow.
weak.
So let me read the exact quote just so that we don't misquote him. It says, "I think right now mentally weak would be a good assessment. When you're on a roll, you're waiting for good things to happen. When you're in something like this, you're waiting for something bad to happen."
He's not wrong,
No,
but
no.
can you imagine him saying that? Like Sheldon Keith had to retract his words. He had to backtrack and basically apologize to his players
Yeah.
for not even saying anything bad.
Well,
And
let's go back to what Keith said. So I have it all in front of me now. So we'll dissect that and then get into that. So basically, they lost the game to Arizona. Was it 4-2? Is that right?
yep,
And he
empty netter.
says, and basically his quote after the game was, "When you really look at it, the difference between us and Arizona is that we have elite players. Our elite players didn't play like elite players today. They couldn't make the difference. In that sense, the game is going to be close. That is the way it goes when those guys don't make the difference that they can." Right? So those were his
Well,
So
comments
explain to
after
me
the game.
how,
Yeah.
but how do you take that? Like, so now he backtracked, and how do you take that the wrong way? Like, what other way can you take that? Like,
Well,
I
if
don't
if
understand.
you read
Like, it
if
makes him look so bad.
did you read the quotes today from his backtracking statements though? Like I don't I mean it's hard to put any type of like faith in the words that a coach is saying to the media because he's trying not to tell you everything. They're not going to tell the media everything, right? So I'm going to take this with a grain of salt and I'll just read his quote from today and then we can kind of take from it what we will. And he says, he goes, because they were talking about Marner, and I think Marner is the one who told the media that he talked to them about it. And then Keefe's quote was this: "Well, I had a lot of other guys to talk with him about just regular check-ins I have with all the players, but that was just on the list of things to discuss. I guess I'm glad I did because they didn't know what I was talking about. I helped prepare them to deal with you guys today. He goes, it's just a regular check-in, and I'm paraphrasing here just to get to the good stuff. He says, I used some of the wrong words to describe what I was trying to describe. The difference in the game was that we weren't able to produce, whether on the power play or at 5-on-5. That is really the difference with all of the puck time we had. Right? So, and then he goes, I didn't mean anything beyond that, blah, 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 blah. But I'm with you. How can, I think those first comments were in a very emotional response. It was an excellent response, to be honest with you. And I wouldn't criticize him for saying those things.
I have no issue with anything he said.
God.
Go
Tommaso, you
ahead,
get
Dave.
in there.
No, go.
Well, I mean, one thing I noticed about Keefe this year, maybe you guys have noticed it as well, is he's been yelling a lot on the bench, whether it's to the refs and just in general. He doesn't look comfortable. I don't know if he just feels like there's too much pressure on him this year, and I don't know that's the sense I've got, especially listening to him post game, especially after a loss, and I don't know. He's just too frustrated with his team. He knows he can't get through to them anymore. Who knows, really? But he just looks different. He looks different to me, and maybe the pressure is just getting to these guys. And maybe he's come out to say these words today, backtracking whatever term you want to use. Maybe he's just used it because this team. I mean, Boudreaux can say his team's mentally weak. I think this team is even weaker. I mean, I've
Yep.
noticed on the bench. When things are not going well, their heads are down. No one's really pepping everybody up on the bench, especially with the captain there, and it's just a quiet team. And I don't know. Maybe they're just very, very fragile and they can't handle the pressure. And it's pressure they put on themselves for various reasons, but this is who they are. No one should be surprised.
It's hard to not feel sorry for Keith because right from game one, you can tell. Like I know O-Dog and a couple of the insiders were saying it was kind of bush league, for a coach to come out and like start reaming the players game one, like that's a joke and this and this.
Yeah.
But it's not though, because the thing is he's seeing something that he's seen the past couple of years. This isn't the first game of the season for him. This is, a continuation of the past couple of years. So all the things you work hard during training camp, all the things that you've promised to be different, you've made a commitment towards change. They always talk about the process. They talk about this. And then you come out and you play a certain way. It must be extremely frustrating for him, because he knows that there's so much more from this team. And for whatever reason, it's not just getting through to him. And if you ever look back on when a coach is about to be fired, or when they always say like a coach loses the room, etc., the one thing that usually sticks out is when the coach starts really throwing the players under the bus.
Mm-hmm.
When he's really, like, most of the time they'll protect the players at all costs. Once he starts throwing the players under the bus, he's in a position that there's nowhere else to go, right? He's tried everything else. He's at his last wits. He's going to start doing whatever he can. And that's when usually it's just, there's no coming back from it. Now the players really tune him out, and it's pretty much the end of the road for the coach. So I don't know. I don't see good things ahead for Sheldon Keefe, unfortunately.
Giancarlo, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, no, I agree with everything Tommaso just said. I think that his job's probably on a short leash. I would be looking more at Dubas from a front office standpoint in terms of who needs to go next, but in most cases it's usually the coach. And to Dave's point, I mean the few games I've caught of the Leafs, like it looks like he's just always yelling on the bench, and he just doesn't seem himself. Like there's something else going on, and then he makes that call out, which I have no issue with anything that he said. I think that when the team loses to Montreal and Arizona, when you have elite players like the Toronto Maple Leafs do.
Only one. Hold on. Only one. Go
Well,
on. Sorry.
I mean, I don't know whether it's one, whether it's two. They're way outclassing
or three. I'm
teams
not
like
gonna say
Arizona.
I'm not gonna say Tavares is elite, but he's a He's probably in the. They're probably
Well,
including him in that. I'm not
Hold on.
agreeing, but
Who's
you can
Mike?
argue that
Who's
Tavares
better?
is elite though, because I mean,
Hold
when
on.
you look
Who's
at
better,
Stroll,
guys? Who would you rather have, Kadri or Tavares?
Tavares, any day of the
Over
week,
Kadri?
any
Oh,
day of the week,
well,
any
neither
day of the week.
now.
well,
Well,
no, but
because
I'm
the
just
thing
trying to
about
say that.
Tavares, I feel like people are very hard on him because of the contract he signed. But
But what do you mean?
when
What
we
has he
talk
done in
about,
his career? But
well,
what's he done in his career?
in terms of an elite player, I don't think he's an elite all-around player. Like you can't compare him
Yeah.
to like a Crosby or a
Elite,
McKinnon.
elite's a
So
big
then he's
word.
not elite.
But
Then
he's
he's
an
not
elite
elite.
goal scorer.
Yeah.
But he's an elite
Oh,
goal
come
scorer.
on.
I would put him right up
Really?
there. I mean, look at it when the numbers speak for themselves. I
What
think,
has he got?
I think he's top
He's
5
still a
for
point
most
per
goals
game
in the last
player,
10
guys. Come
years.
on.
No,
Yeah,
there's no question about it. In terms of an elite goal scorer, he's there for me.
Okay,
He's
okay.
for
Let's
he's
sure.
just
fantastic
for
at that.
argument's sake, because I know we've had the elite conversation many times, and that's a very subjective word to use. So you can't.
It is.
So for the sake of arguing, let's just say excellent players. Okay. So
For
if
sure.
their
Hey,
best
this is-
players, their best players were
Skeef
not
brought
the
it up.
best. Yeah.
Skeef brought it up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. He did.
I
He
He
guess
did
did.
use the word elite, but if we say
his bar is
excellent,
low. I guess his bar is very low.
in terms of Montreal and Arizona compared to Toronto, the word excellent is they have so many more excellent players.
Yeah.
For
So
sure. Tavares is
it's
a
tough to
first
say.
line player for
Yeah.
80% of the teams out there, right? Like
Easily.
he's Kadri is not a first line center
No.
on majority of teams, right? Tavares is. Like as much as people hate Tavares and whatnot, the problem with Tavares is because he's a comparable to Matthews. Matthews is on the same team, so he looks a lot less, exciting, dynamic, et cetera. But the problem also is his salary. When you have $11 million, you expect much more. But I don't know. It's a tough argument, right?
Well,
He's still a
but
very good player.
Speaking of Tavares, and I know we're gonna go off a bit because we're really talking about Keith's comment, but I heard, I don't know how much of this is true, but I heard that when they were interviewing for the position, when they were going with between who was it, Dubas, Shanahan, Dubas, Lou, and Mark Hunter. Apparently Hunter, and this is before Tavares, obviously, right? Apparently he wanted to allocate some of that cap space towards defense, and we all know that, Dubas had another plan. It was a high octane offense, right? So that could have been another reason why he went with Dubas over someone like Mark Hunter. Who knows? But it shows you how someone else would have probably built around Kadri as your second line center. It would have changed a lot of things. It would have changed a lot of things.
Yeah. It's tough.
Sure, but we
It's
also
tough to go
can't
back.
forget,
Yeah.
like when Kadri was in Toronto, it's not exactly like he was, the golden child. He made costly mistakes in the playoffs. He made, I don't know, unforgivable mistakes. Never mind costly.
He costed them
So
that one series.
two series, never mind one, right? Like he got kicked out twice, and if he didn't get suspended, especially the second time, I don't know. Like I
I
think
get it,
Leafs win
but the
that one.
point is, if they would have, let's say, a tougher team, that let's say Mark Hunter would have built a tougher team around
Oh yeah,
around the fringes, maybe
for sure.
Kadri's not put in that position
Yeah.
to be the tough guy.
Yeah.
That 100% I agree with. If Kadri's not, see, the problem is Kadri had no one to stick up for Marlowe because that's what happened, right? Marlowe
Game.
took the hit, and no one else was capable or willing or played that role to go in. So what did he do? He went out to avenge his teammate. Did he do an incredibly stupid thing? Yes,
Which one are we
but
talking about, by the way?
the
I
one when he
think the
crushed the
second one.
brusque from behind.
Yeah, but
The
wasn't
second
that?
one.
But hold on, wasn't that after he got kneed at center ice?
Yeah.
So
Well,
he
that
may
was
have been. It was the same. That was the same one. So DeBrusque is the one who kneed him at center ice, correct?
yeah.
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 So he may have been going after, DeBrusque because shortly before he hit Marlowe or whatever. But I look at it as what Dave said. Like Kadri is the only guy on that team that was a warrior. He was the only guy that was willing to battle on that team. Now I'm not saying you got to go out and cross-check guys in the head. That was a stupid mistake on his part. I'm not going to condone what he did. However, I will say that in the playoffs you got to show a little bit of pushback sometimes. And he definitely made some mistakes. I'm not going to say he didn't, but if the coach should have also recognized that he was going to blow a gasket too, and you don't put a guy out there unless you calm him down, or if you have enough beef on your team, you surround that guy and you protect him a little bit. You go and you show what you're made of rather than letting that guy, blow a gasket in front of everybody. You know what I mean?
Sure.
That's
And
true.
in fairness though, right? Like I think we all agree that if he had a tougher team around him, I think the chances would be a little less. But then that whole argument gets thrown out the
Yeah.
window because then the following year he goes to Colorado and he does the same thing. He does the exact same stupid cheap shot
Yeah.
to the
He,
head
he
and
hit,
gets suspended.
was it Justin
So
Falk? I think he hit Justin Falk, I think.
yeah. So where, like you know what I mean? Like he just
Yeah.
has that in him. He's got that dirtiness to him,
Yeah.
He's a
That
and
edge.
it's
liability.
just
It's that edge.
he's
It's
got to
that edge.
control it, right?
But
That's
he's
all it
not
Well,
is.
he's not a liability, Giancarlo. He proved he wasn't last year. So the problem is every player comes with a con. Every player's got pros and cons. Every single person. The con could
True.
be that you're 5'6". You know what I mean? The con could
Yeah.
be that you're too slow. That those are every player's got pros and cons. Kadri's got the con where he can be he could be goaded into stuff. And Boston wasn't stupid either. Don't get me. Boston knew exactly what they were doing when it came. Like they're like
Oh,
this guy's gonna lose it.
yeah,
This
oh
guy's
yeah,
gonna lose it.
yeah,
They
for sure.
knew. They knew. They're not stupid.
yeah,
Boston's the king of that when it comes to
yeah.
that
You know,
stuff.
it's another good example. Tom Wilson, right? Everyone talks about they hate Tom Wilson. Every GM in the league would cut off their left leg to get Tom Wilson on their team.
Not all
I
of
don't
them.
care what anyone
Not
says.
one.
Well,
Maybe
one
maybe
that doesn't,
31 of them.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he doesn't count as a real GM, right? He's a
So
spreadsheet
did,
analyst,
did
whatever.
hey, if he listened to his spreadsheets, he would know that Murray's always hurt. So obviously he doesn't. He's very biased with his spreadsheets.
Apparently, he knows something that we don't, right? I don't
Yeah.
know. I actually saw some people. This is the funniest thing, right? That like I just it's at the point that it just makes me laugh. It's you either hate Dubas and anything he does, you're just gonna knock him, or you love Dubas and doesn't matter what he does, he could do no wrong. And that's what's sad. You like I just why would have people become so like a bunch of little zealots? You know, they just follow along whatever route they go on. And I actually saw people saying that Doofus actually planned for him being hurt. Like him being hurt, he wanted more of a salary. He didn't want to
No,
retain less.
don't
Like, can
believe
you
it.
imagine like
No,
someone
come on.
actually saying this? Like, you think he's acquiring Murray, knowing that he's going to get hurt, so he can put him on. Like, how does that make any sense? Like, how pathetic can you be to actually think that's in what reality does that make any sense? I just don't understand.
I think
I
the
don't know.
people that support those GMs they're always going to support the team. So I look at fans, and Montreal went through the same thing with Bergevin. So I turned on Bergevin. I would say I gave him after he traded PK, I was not a happy camper for sure because I didn't like the trade. And I knew that there was a shelf life on Weber. That was the reason. It's not that I didn't like Shea Weber. I didn't like the timing because Weber was not going to get any younger. He was on the back nine of his career. So speaking of a guy that was going to break down, that's a perfect example. Like I saw the same thing happening with Weber. So then I'm like, okay, if you're all in and you're getting Shea Weber, your opportunity to win is a very short window. You know what I mean? And then he ended up losing guys like Radulov and Markov for nothing, and then he replaced them with Alice Hemsky and Mark Straight. Okay, like this is where I started. That's when he lost me because I'm like, let me get this straight. You get a guy that's on the back nine of his career, and then you're getting worse every year. And then he traded for Drouin, and then he literally threw Drouin to the wolves because he didn't have any help around him. The team got worse every single year. And as much as I think Drouin has turned into uh, a poor player, I think that the coach or the GM didn't do him any favors to throw him into that situation. A little bit like the Kessel situation in Toronto, even though Kessel's a far better player. But I would compare it to that situation where Kessel needed more around him. He couldn't do it all by himself. So, but either way, back to my point about the fanboys, there are always going to be fans that support the team and support the decisions that the GM makes, no matter what. No matter what. Period. End of story. But we're at the stage now of our lives as fans that we just don't do that anymore. At least I don't. I mean, it's crazy to just accept all these decisions that guys make, especially when you see it. We've been through so many management regimes of making these mistakes, you know?
Yeah, for sure. We don't know these guys anything. Just call it as it is. If they do great, why not? We applaud them. If they don't, you hold them accountable. That's
Yeah.
all I do. I'm not going to hate on someone just because I don't have a problem with Dubas. Like we knock him, we joke around, all that stuff, because it's been years of catastrophe. If he produced great results and he built a balanced team, why wouldn't you like
Yeah.
Dubas? He just seems like an amazing person, and he would be an excellent boss. Unfortunately, like his philosophy differs from mine, and the way that I would run a hockey team obviously is extremely different. And I would you never want anyone to fall on their face, but he's just in a situation that I don't know anymore. You just when you set up a plan and it doesn't work out, you need to adapt. You need to adjust. You need to, like read the tea leaves, so to speak. Like, and he doesn't, and he just keeps going with the same philosophy. I'm just gonna go out my way, and to me, that is very scary, and that's very selfish because you're not thinking of the team. You're not thinking of what's best for the organization. You're not thinking of what's going to provide the best results. You're just thinking about, listen, I want to prove everyone that I'm right, and that to me is disgusting.
I
And
think
and
the
that's why it
word.
doesn't matter. Babcock was the
Yeah.
same, right? He
Yeah.
was the same. He's got
Yeah.
to do his thing, his way. And all the knocks on Babcock, but look, Dubas is doing the exact same thing.
I think the word that I like to use when I get to this stage is trust. And you've just lost, at least most Leaf fans, or I would say a majority of Leaf fans that I've spoken to now have. There's always a timeline on when you lose trust in that GM. Every GM has a lifespan. It's a fact. When a guy gets hired, there is a time that guy's going to be fired, and you don't want to think about it the day that you hire him because obviously you want to give the guy a chance. So it's interesting because the Canadiens GM is going through sort of that honeymoon stage where he's been hired, he's making some moves. For the most part, I'm happy with what he's done so far, but again, no expectations yet at this point. All you're really doing is evaluating moves. There is no real. It's hard to evaluate on a bigger scale because you don't see the plan kind of shaping up, but at least we see a little bit of a future or a runway ahead. But with Dubas, you see that trust kind of dwindling for most Leaf fans, and I can understand why. Like that success hasn't been there, so he hasn't really given you that reason to trust him. I would question the ones that still do why they do. That would be interesting to talk about if there are any of you guys here that still trust him. But it sounds like we've lost all you guys as Dubas fans.
He
I
lost me
never
years.
liked him
He
from the
lost me years
beginning.
ago.
When when
Years ago, he
when
lost.
when did he lose you, Dave? When?
I don't know when we used to have lunch together. I
No,
think
but
I
no, but
think
when was the move? Like when did you start to say, I doubt this guy? Like, can you remember?
I'd have to go back and think about it because there's so many. He hasn't done anything amazing for me to say I think this is the right guy. It's almost like I've never believed he was the guy. How's that? I never didn't trust him from the beginning. I just wasn't sure he was the right guy. I think a lot of us were thinking, why didn't you just keep it the way it was?
Hmm.
Why it was working? Everything was
Because
working.
they were
Why?
scared they were
Why?
going to lose him. That's all it
Yeah, that's
is.
fine. It would have been Colorado or Arizona. Great, big deal.
For
Exactly.
But
me, when I realized that he wasn't fit for the job is when Matthews and Marner were running the team, and he was
I
just
mean, the
giving them blank
contracts.
checks. Uh huh.
Well, a lot of people might say it was Nylander because once he bent the knee to Nylander, then everyone else jumped in, right? That could have been the beginning when people started questioning him. But for
Yeah,
me,
but
personally,
Nylander, I don't know. The Nylander's a little bit of both though, because I mean, as much as he didn't really give him that much money. Like at the time, it seemed like he did, but that contract is actually quite nice now, and
Yeah, Willie's
he did
contract's
make
good.
him. He sat out half the year because he wouldn't
Not
agree to
half,
whatever
not
terms.
half, but a
Almost
couple
half the year.
couple months, couple
couple
But
months. Yeah.
he
months.
was he was horrible that season because he wasn't in practice. He came in and he was out of shape, like not
Yeah,
out
he
of
was
shape, but
eating
like he
eating
wasn't in
too
the
much
rhythm.
eating too much prosciutto. Yeah, yeah.
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 But like I don't know. Dubas I think did a little bit better with Nylander than he did with Matthews and Marner. A lot better, not just a little bit.
I think that was the problem. And Shanahan brought this kid up, and he was hoping to develop him under Lou. And then as soon as he heard that people were, tiptoeing around Dubas and inquiring about him, he figured, I need to make a decision here. I need to either stick with Lou and then have the possibility of losing Dubas, or giving him the runway and let's see what he can do. And I think that was the mistake. I think if Leafs only had 2 more years under Lou, like I think Dubas would have been okay because give the old man 2 years of
The
first off
contracts, if he had handled
making
those
the
contracts,
contracts.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
those contracts. Like Lou has shown time and time again that you cannot bully him. You can't bully him, and he gets his way. Like look at all the contracts he's recently signed, even with Barzell and etc. That's his bread and butter. And if you just gave Lou 2 years, let people, like get Marner signed to much less than he did. He probably got him to like 9.95 even, maybe. I don't know. Like who knows? We can't talk about
Yeah.
maybes at this point, right? But I know Lou would have done better. And think about it. If you even save 1.5, 2 million, etc., that means that's the difference between keeping Hyman and losing Hyman, right? Like those are all these little things, right? And then even it goes back to what Dave was saying earlier. He builds a different team, right? It's not going to just be just forward
Yeah.
heavy. He would probably designate more of the cap room towards defense.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think if you gave Lou 2 years and then Dubas comes in and takes over, I think that would have been the perfect case scenario. But unfortunately, we'll never know, right?
And it's not even hindsight because a lot of us and a lot of people said, why? Why not let Lou do the negotiations with
Yeah.
him? He's in the room watching firsthand how it's done. They could have played good cop, bad cop type thing and get it done, right? Because they just took advantage of him. And the way I look at it is once those contracts were signed, I said, wow, these guys are putting all the pressure on themselves because now they can't go out and get anybody else. It's all on you.
Yeah.
In this market, oof,
And
that's the worst.
and it's strange too because like and I remember telling Dave this too, and Dave disagreed with me, and he's right in the end. I mean, I'm going to end up being wrong if the Leafs can't get it done. But uh, as a GM, I always say, like I said, the talent is the thing that you can't get. You cannot get that talent. So even if the contract is a little bit inflated, even if Marner makes a little bit more than he should, even if you could argue Matthews maybe could have taken a little bit less, but it's very arguable that maybe he took what he should have. Um, but again, Tavares coming in as a UFA, I mean that's the way it goes. He took less to come to Toronto anyway. But when I was arguing, it was that you could literally build a team around them. All you need is a little bit of sandpaper, a little bit of heart, a little bit of take no shit type of players around those guys that Dubas just refuses to do. He just refuses to employ. And like when he made that, and I mean I know we're going back. We made that trade for Malgin, right? It was the Marchment for Malgin. Like that is a perfect example of why on earth are you making that trade? You had a good young player that had some grit to his game that is obviously showing some offense too. Like I don't understand that approach. And obviously Marchment turned out to be a much better player than any of us expected. I'm not saying you expected him to be a top six player, but you need a bottom six player that plays with a little bit of heart, no? And he's getting a Malgin again now. Like again, how many of these guys can you put on your team before you're like, guys, who's gonna dig in the corners? Who's gonna do the dirty work for these guys? Who? Nobody,
Nope.
right?
It's his system, right? The system he employs has nothing to do with physicality, right? Like Lubushkin brought that element and he didn't like it. He doesn't like it's all about puck possession for under Dubas' strategy. It's about holding on to the puck, holding on to the puck. But even against Tampa, if you saw the scoring chances, everything was in the perimeter. So Tampa it had no problems just blocking them out
Yeah.
and keeping them on the outside and removing the threat. And you could hold on to the puck as much as you want. Like even the first period against Arizona, right? Toronto completely controlled possession. It was just something ridiculous. It was so over the top. But the problem is they weren't really doing anything. They were cycling, puck in and holding on to the puck. But you could do it all day long. You're not going to do anything. You're not going to get it. You got to get in the paint. You got to get into the hard areas. You got to actually create opportunities for yourself. And they're not doing that. They're just like playing shinny.
So if we had to take a small vote, do you think Keefe will still have a job with Toronto? by the end of the season.
We'll see what happens in the next week or so, right? Because at the end of the day, if this team keeps losing, there's no way that you could just keep going with it. The pressure right now is through the roof. Like Dubas obviously doesn't have a contract. Like there's going to be so much heat coming down from above. If they keep losing, something's got to give. Like, what do you think is the easier decision, right? Like for them to clean house now after 10 games, like that's what it'll probably be, right?
Well,
They're
they've
not
only,
gonna
yeah,
make
no, I don't
they're
think
not
so.
gonna make changes after 4 or 5 games. It'll probably be around the 10 game mark.
No, I
If
don't.
they're still terrible, I don't
I
know.
don't.
I
I
don't.
I
think
think
that would even be too early.
I
I
think
would
so.
say
Yeah, I agree.
Christmas time.
Yeah,
no
I'm
way. If
bang
they
on.
go like this for 10 games, if they play like this for 10 games, there will be a change. There's no way. Like you saw what happened to the Islanders. If you are down too far behind, if you're talking about 15, 16 games and you're like 2-12, 2-14, you're done. Especially in a division like they have right now, that everyone's coming up. Detroit's coming up.
Yeah.
Even Ottawa's playing better. Like if you think
I'd
that you're
be
just going to
shocked.
come along and catch up, I don't know, man. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, I'd be shocked, honestly, though, if they would clean house after 10 games. I'm more inclined to agree with Giancarlo. Like, I think that they're guys. It's been 4 games, okay, so they're better than we know. They lost to Arizona, okay. They lost to Montreal. It was the first game of the season. It's in Montreal. I mean, those games are always close games, okay. Like I know that people may not give Montreal credit, but those are close games, divisional games. It's going to be hard. They're always going to be 1 goal games. The game against Arizona, yeah, they lost the game, big deal. So it's gonna be they'll turn it around. I think that I'd be surprised if they didn't, but if they didn't turn it around, I would still be even more shocked if they were to basically make heads roll in the next 10 games. I think that they got at least till Christmas to say how can we do here. But I mean, hey man, he made this bed. We talked about Murray, like he signs a goalie or he trades for a goalie that has an injury history. This is, and he's not getting paid peanuts. It's a really really weird thing. A lot of people foresaw this happening. So I don't the criticism for Dubas is warranted. If they were to make changes, it's warranted. It's valid. I don't think that it shouldn't be. As for Keefe, I think these backtracking comments, like I would have wished if he had sort of stood by them, to be honest with you, because I didn't disagree with anything that he said. I think that he's right. He's like, hey, our best players have to be our best players. Maybe he should have said it a little bit differently. Maybe considering it's
Why?
four games in. Well,
Why?
like you said, he's showing a little bit of desperation. He's showing that
He
throwing
has to though.
them under the bus. Well, maybe, but maybe he could have said the same thing a little bit differently. I'm not criticizing what he said because if I'm in that bench, I heard that message loud and clear. And I found one of those
Yeah.
players, I heard that loud and clear. I don't need any media interpretation or an apology from anybody. I heard it, right?
Who does Marner think he is to come
I
out and
know.
say that? Okay, you think that Torts would have put up with that?
No, are you kidding
Well,
me?
that's what I'm saying. It's not Dubas that's going to be getting the first hit. If they keep going at 10 games, 15 games, whatever the games is,
You think
it all
he's
depends on how they play. It's not Dubas. You're not going to make a organizational change that's going to be this dramatic. Shanahan, Dubas, Keith. That's like an off-season move. The last resort is going to be a coaching change. They're going to have to bring in a veteran coach. I'm telling you, that's all he's got now. Dubas has no other play. Like he has nothing else no other cards to play anymore.
yeah.
Why
I
can't
I don't know.
but Marner should have came out and said, look, he's holding us accountable. He called us out. Fine, we got to be better. You never hear them say we got to be better. It's
But
always
well,
they
like
don't.
he
They
excuse
don't.
after
The culture is
excuse
like
after
what you say all the time. It's
yeah,
these guys run the show. They don't care. Like
yeah.
they should be the ones getting
but
mad. They should be
yeah.
going out into the press saying, you know what, the way we're playing is disgusting. The coach is right. Like we the fans deserve better. We should be better.
Yeah.
We had enough of this bull crap. That's what you should be happy. But instead, this idiot's doing TikTok dances during practice, and he don't
When a coach,
care. Like
he's
I don't
playing
know.
Fortnite right now, but when a coach has to explain himself because he offended a couple players,
Give me a break.
which he really didn't. When you think about it, they played horribly.
Yeah.
If you think
It
that's
shows
a
you
being
deep down.
offended, oh my
No, but I'm
god.
showing it's showing you
Yeah,
deep down who runs that team, and it's the
Exactly.
core guy. It's always the core guys. It's always come
Jason.
down to this.
Jason Spezza's not there anymore to hold these guys accountable. Like I think
Neither
that's
is
part of the
Muzzin.
problem,
And apparently Muzzin's the real captain anyway, they said. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Let me read Marner's comments today because he may not have said it exactly the way you guys said, but let me just read what he responded with. So he says, I talked to him today. He explained what he meant to say, how it came out, and everything like that. I will leave it at that. Like I said, we have closed doors here for a reason. We have talks without you guys for a reason. We had that talk today. We understand. We are grown men. So I think,
Are we though?
well, okay, so I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt because hey, look, man, how much you got to be able to interpret those comments after the game. Like I don't care how thick you are, the message is going to be received. Okay, like if you're, especially if you're like, I'm the best player on this team. Guys, look, we don't have to be NHLers. You could play ball hockey and be the best players on your team, and and you're like, and when you're playing against a team and you didn't play as well as you should have, and you know you're going to take that responsibility to be the best player on your team. I don't care what level you're playing at. It's the same conceptually. If I'm the best player on my team and I don't show up when it matters, and the other team was better than me, and they didn't have anyone better that was as good of a player as me, I, you know what I mean? And the coach says, my guys didn't show up. I'm not going to look at to my left and to my right. I know exactly who he means, you know?
But
So,
again, Mike, like I said from the beginning, look, that bench is always head down. They're just
Yeah.
they're always a deflated team. They're mentally weak. They're spoiled. I don't know if entitled's the right word.
yeah.
They
No,
just
but you
don't
know
look
what's
like a team. They're
the
not a
biggest
team.
problem though is they're going to show up against Dallas. I can bet
Well,
you
you
a
would think
billion
they would.
dollars
You would
they
think
will.
so.
But you know what's going to be the problem though? They're going to come out and they're going to play Dallas and they're going to play really well. And then the next game, whatever, they're going to go like on a little run. And then they're going to be like, see, F you guys. We can do it when we need to. And
But
everything the way that they played the past couple of days will just, to them, it doesn't matter. And that's the thing. They'll never learn from their mistakes. You can't. Like those type of things can't keep happening over and over again. Good teams don't go on these lulls. They play hard. At least they compete every
but it
night.
will,
Like you're
but
not
it will
expecting them
happen
to
again.
win.
But it
Of
will
course it
happen
will. Of
because
course.
they can only win one way, and that's to outskill you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I,
it.
I
That's
think they
it.
also lack a little bit of like, hockey is an emotional game. Like, I don't care how more progressive we are now and how the game has changed over the course of our lifetime and like strategies are at an all-time high and all that. Hockey will always be an emotional game. And when you don't see that emotional response in a team, that's concerning. It is concerning. So
For
I would
sure.
I would want a player like Marner. Like it's okay for him to make these comments. I kind of I'm gonna read between the lines, and I think that the message got received when I read these comments. But that is a very diplomatic way of saying it. I would prefer it the way Dave said it, and I would be like, you know what, or one of you guys said it. Coach is right. We sucked. We lost to Arizona for Pete's sake. You know what I mean? There's no excuses. We lost to
Never
Arizona.
hear that. You never hear them say that.
Yeah,
Never.
it's silly that they got to tiptoe around this stuff because I think that you make yourself more accountable when you do that. Like this whole read between the lines nonsense, like I don't want to read between the lines. I want you to tell me straight out, you know? Like and that tells me at least I know, okay, you're in it. You know what I mean? You realize that you weren't good enough. That's important. As a fan, it's important to know,
I
right?
still see it the opposite way, especially with his comment about there's discussions or conversations behind closed doors that you guys don't hear, or whatever he said there. I don't know. To me, it's just I would love to hear what's going on behind closed doors because to me, I think that he's just crying his eyes out to Dubas or whoever he has to cry his eyes out to. Because for Keith to come out and
I
kind
agree
of go
with
back
you.
on what he said, that was all Marner. And then Marner's comments today, that's that just seals my point that was all Marner. That's how I take it anyway. It's going to be subjective to how you take it, but to me, Marner is just he's. I love Marner as a player. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a great hockey player, but his attitude, like not to bring another sport into it, but he reminds me kind of like a Juju Smith-Schuster. Like, yeah, the fans are gonna love him, but
Yeah.
he's too busy dancing on the bench and having a good time with TikTok. There's nothing wrong with having a
Oh,
positive attitude, but like
yeah.
come on, man. Hockey, you're playing professional sports. We want to see you win, and then you can dance. You want to dance after the final thing goes off, horn? Dance all you want, but there's no dancing. In the first period before a game starts, you got to get serious. This is, it's not juniors.
But that's where
This is the NHL.
your teammates should also hold you accountable to a
But
degree,
they
and that's right.
don't.
And
They
that's
don't.
exactly, and that's the problem. We talked about this before with this core. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. Like, I think it's just from top to bottom. This team doesn't give you that trust that you need as a fan to say, are they going to get it done? Can they get it done? At one point, I was really pulling for you guys, to be honest with you. I know I'm a Hab fan. I've lived my whole life as a Hab fan. But as I get older, I've been growing up with you guys as my friends, and I would love for you guys to be able to see a Stanley Cup. And when you have the cards in your employ to win a cup, which I thought they had at one point in time. I really thought that, you know what, there's going to be a great chance for them to do it. And when you see it disappearing in front of your eyes, and then I start to look at it a little more critically. I admit I give them a little bit more rope because I'm like, okay, they have the talent. All it takes is for them to surround that talent with the right pieces, guys that will work, guys that will do the dirty work, you know, that will get the puck to those guys. That's the important part, to have that foundational piece. But these guys are just showing that they're just not. We've seen teams like that in the past. I know the Ottawa
Mhm.
Senators were like that once upon a time. I'm going to put the San Jose Sharks in that same equation where they had all that talent way back when with Joe Thornton and Patrick Marleau, and was Pavelski on that team too?
Yeah.
Wait, yeah,
Yep.
Well,
when he
I don't
came
know
at
what
the
year he
end.
started.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but either way, like those teams were, they had Heatley, Danny Heatley.
Danny
They,
Heatley. Yep.
yeah, like they had a lot of talent, and they just disappointed every single year. I can remember Drew Doughty when LA was down 3-0 to them. I don't know if you remember the quotes. He was saying like, "We're not out of this series. These guys are going to choke." And I remember laughing, going, "You're losing a series 3-0 to a team, and you're literally trash talking those guys,
Yeah.
and he turned out
Yeah.
to be right, you
That's the
know."
Yeah.
way
There
it's
was,
supposed to be. That
You need
that's how you
players
get
like
your
that,
guys
man.
going, and you get in the other
Yeah.
team's head.
And
It's
that's
beautiful.
and that's why I say, like, the Leafs remind me of those teams where you're so good, but you just can never seem to get those missing pieces that you need in order to get you over the
Well,
hump. And
why do you think we're so frustrated? If they were terrible, no one would care.
yeah,
But you don't get a guy like Austin Matthews, you know, like every decade or so. He's
yeah.
arguably the best Leaf that we've ever seen in our lifetime, if ever, for that's ever worn a Leaf jersey. And we're wasting it. We're wasting these years that he could be doing something special. We could be seeing something special. But instead, we're just seeing the same story
Yeah.
repeat itself over and
Well,
over
he's
again.
still a young guy. I went through it with Carey Price. I went through the exact same thing with Carey Price, and that's why I was yelling at Bergevin to do something, because I'm like, this guy's not gonna be around forever. Like, what are you waiting for? Like, when that goalie's gone, you're gonna be crying, oh, I don't have the goaltending anymore, right? So sometimes you got to mortgage a little bit, and I know that the Leafs have been bleeding assets. The plan just hasn't come to fruition at all for those things. But I still think that Matthews is young enough. If he sticks around, I know that there's still some questions on whether or not he's gonna be back, because ultimately it's his choice whether he comes back or not. They've given him that right. Um,
For sure.
I have hope that he stays. I have hope uh, that the next management team will do what it takes in order to make this team a winner, because that talent is something that you cannot get easily. And I actually like Matthews as a player. He's shown me a lot of things where he wants to get better every year. He's not just a guy that rests on his laurels every single year. He's working on his shot, or he's working on his speed. And I read a quote earlier this year saying that he's actually working on his physicality this year, and he's looking to use his size more, which I love the sound of that. Like, that's what a real captain would do, I think. So to me, he may not be the captain of the team, but he's the leader of this team. And it's too bad that they didn't give him a C, because I actually think the team would be better. And I think even Marner would be a little bit more taking accountability if his buddy was the captain. That's what I feel anyway.
Well, then he should be showing those leadership skills. You don't need to see to show those leadership skills, right? I mean, he should still be doing it. And then, I mean, eventually we've seen it on several teams where the C strip from one player and move to another. San
Yeah.
Jose's done it. LA's done it.
yeah.
Tampa Bay did it when they got
Winnipeg
Tampa
just did
Bay,
it.
yeah.
Tampa Bay
Yeah.
stripped
So,
LeCavalier when they won before they won the cup. Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
recall that. I think when shortly after Tavares was named captain, that Matthews did they were interviewing him. I don't know if it was during an intermission, whatever, and he mentioned that this is John Tavares' team. So I guess in a way, some people do feel like the captaincy is important, and maybe he doesn't want to step on his toes. I
Yeah.
don't know, but to me, something has to change. But I don't know how you change it with this current regime.
Yeah, I think
After
something has to
four or
change.
5 years, you start stepping on as many toes as you can with the playoff
No,
success you've
no,
had.
4 or 5 years is too long. It's gonna happen within the next year or two. Like it's gotta happen. Like this can't go on that
Gotta
much
happen
more.
now. I mean, like it's I
Yeah.
don't know what the wait is.
well, we'll see. It's still early. It's 4 games into the season, so we'll wait until at least Christmas before we start to decide that the Leaf season is over.
Let's talk about something more fun and interesting.
More
Carlo,
fun.
tell us about your pens.
Okay, yeah, let's switch the topic to the future Stanley Cup
Oh, bye.
2022-2023 Stanley Cup winners. Yeah, I like it.
Islanders? Just joking.
Nope,
Continue.
same division though. Same division. The Pittsburgh Penguins. Yeah, they're looking good. They dropped the game against Montreal. I caught most of it. I was doing a fantasy draft while doing it, so I wasn't fully watching it. But I mean, they played well. Montreal looks good, so they definitely were keeping up with them. And I mean, Pittsburgh played 2 home games and then flew into Montreal for that one. And as much as not always an excuse, when you're coming off 2 home games and you go on the road, sometimes you're a bit fatigued, and they looked a little bit fatigued. So Montreal took advantage and they won it. But the important thing is the star players are on point right now. Sidney Crosby 6 points in 3 games. Malkin's got 3 goals in 3 games. Gensel's performing. Letang looks amazing. Russ is doing what Russ does. Zucker looks like he's really rejuvenated. And I know a lot of Penguin fans, including myself, are just praying that this guy stays healthy and we start getting the value that we traded for him, because I think we moved Callie Anderson to Minnesota when we acquired him, and Anderson is looking like a hell of a defenseman for Minnesota now. So we really need Zucker to be that top 6 forward that we traded for. Carter looks good. The whole team looks good. Jeff Petrie. Is it Petrie or Petrie?
Petrie. Yep.
Petrie.
Yep.
I love him. He's exactly what Pittsburgh needed, and I think come playoff time, that he's going to be a huge difference maker. He's hard nosed and he does just about everything: puck moving, hitting, block shots. Ryan Paling, is that how you say that guy's name?
Yeah,
I
you
heard
got
the
it.
announcer say it.
Yeah, you got
I
it.
like him. I like him. He's not. I don't know if he'll ever get past the fourth line. He might get to the third line one point, but I mean, he's a solid bottom 6 forward, and I think in Pittsburgh, he's really going to go under the radar, and it'll maybe allow him to be a little more comfortable. I've liked what I see from him so far, and we have a whole new defense basically. We only have 3 defensemen who are returning from last year, so it's a new look defense. Something that they've struggled with in the past. If Jari stays healthy, I mean, I'm not the biggest Jari fan in the world, but I think he's still a top 10 goalie when he's healthy. He's proven that. His numbers in the regular season are phenomenal. And if the Stars stay healthy, I mean, I don't know. This Penguins team they're looking promising. They are looking promising. I think they may convince you guys to start jumping on the bandwagon
I
eventually.
don't think that's gonna happen, but I
Oh,
mean,
I believe.
I had your
I
Pens in
believe
the semis last year. I believed in them last year.
you did. You did.
I
Well, we got 2 others to get on the bandwagon because I know that you'll
hey,
jump
I
on
would
it.
love to
hey,
I would love to cheer for Sid, but I just can't see. I just see the competition being too difficult for them. I'm being realistic with who they're stacking up against. That's all.
but they had the Rangers last year, Mike. They had them beat.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Coulda,
we're
shoulda,
not.
woulda.
Hey,
Yeah.
we're
No, but I'm
talking
saying
about happy
if they were
things. We're not
healthy,
talking
if they
about
were healthy, they probably beat them.
beat them. They would have swept them.
Oh,
But
here
you
we
know what I
go.
mean. You know what I'm saying.
There's the
You know what I
woulda.
That
mean.
team was garbage. That shouldn't
Okay.
even have been a matchup.
Enough with the garbage.
Stop. They
Come
lost.
on.
They lost the series. In a best of 7, the best team wins. That's it. End of story.
Sure,
Sometimes you get a
especially when
couple bounces. I understand, and it goes your
forget
way.
bounces when you go for cheap shots on the other team's best
Well,
players. I mean,
that
yeah, you take
unfortunately
them
has
out.
been. Hey, don't tell me about that. I've been living through that with the amount of time, the amount of players that Boston has destroyed in Montreal over the years.
Yeah,
I can write a book. So
it's true.
I know all I'm all well aware of all of that stuff. But that's really what hockey is, unfortunately. You see it every single year. I mean, look when Montreal made the semis in 2014, was it? When Kreider took out Price, like game 1, like that wasn't accidentally done, right? It was accidentally on purpose. So,
Absolutely.
but it's hockey, unfortunately. Those things happen. And is it right? No. I'm old enough to know that those things happen. And Trouba went after Crosby for sure, guaranteed, and he took him out, and damage was done. I know Crosby came back, but I think the Rangers won the games that Crosby didn't play. Is that right?
Yep.
Well, there you
Yep.
go.
And they finished off the one that he left.
Yeah, there you go.
And I mean, they blew leads. They were leading in every single game. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, there's no excuse for
Yeah.
them losing that
Got to
series.
get it
But
done. You got to
they
get it done.
lost. You got to get it done.
Yeah. Any other
Yep.
surprises so far in the league that you guys want to talk about? What about those Flyers?
They're losing.
Are they
Hey,
losing
you
tonight?
guys mocked me when I told you they might
I
make the
didn't
playoffs.
mock you. I didn't mock you. I didn't put them in my bottom 5 on purpose.
I mocked them. I absolutely mocked them. They're not going anywhere.
This coach has got these guys fighting for their lives. They like I admire
they're-
Tortorella, but I feel sorry for Philadelphia fans. I really, really do, because this is not the year
They'll
to be
come
doing
back to
this.
reality, though. They will. They'll come back to reality. But the thing is, at least they'll show some
Fight.
heart, some
Yeah.
effort. Like they'll be a much better team at least. But to be honest with you, this was the wrong decision
Yeah.
of all the years for you
Exactly.
to do this. Man, you should go hire that idiot. What was that lead
Peter
coach?
Horacek. Yeah.
There you go. You should have hired him.
Yeah.
Just let him coach and finish dead last, and there you go. Get a shot up a dart. Now you're gonna have a team that's gonna be, not good, not bad. He's just gonna barely miss the playoffs. That's what they're destined to be.
I hope
And why would
for
you
their
want
sake.
that?
Yeah, I hope for their sake that they'll come back to reality and just be a bottom 5 team, even getting the shit kicked out of them by their coach. But I I just I don't know how that's going to work. I think they're just going to be they won't get a bottom 5 pick at this rate. They just don't look that way. Like, the coach is just not going to
Warned
let that
about
happen.
this. And
Yeah.
we warned about this because why did they hire this guy?
Yeah.
Why this year?
Yeah.
Put it this way, if I'm a Flyers fan, I'm not happy.
Yeah, I'm not either. No, exactly. But that's
Well,
the
picture
difference.
your Habs. Imagine your Habs are 3-0 this year. You would not be happy, Mike.
No, I'm not. And I mean, as it is, they're 2-2, the Habs, and I was not happy that they came back against Pittsburgh the other night. That sounds so bad to say, because it's not like I'm cheering against them, but I do want them to lose close games. Like,
Well, it's a different scenario, right?
yeah,
Like if you have a
longer term.
young up and coming team, then it's different. You want them to progress, you want them to get better, et cetera, et cetera. But Philly doesn't have anything to look forward to. They need to bottom out. They need to tank. They need to get that star element. And
Yeah.
Habs are in the same situation.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing
Yeah,
here?
you're
Like,
closer to the bottom.
crazy.
It's this simple. You have to simplify it. You're closer to the bottom than you are to the top. There's no chance in hell you're going to win the Stanley Cup. I don't care what fairy tale you believe in. You're not going to win the Stanley Cup. So,
I got one buddy who's a diehard Habs fan. So his philosophy this season is the Habs are going to go on this dream run to win the Stanley Cup,
oh
and
my.
he's
Oh
cheering
boy.
that Florida is going to finish dead last, and they're still going to get Bedard.
Okay, well, that's like a
What type of mushroom was he eating before he had this conversation with you? Do you know? Was there one that like he
Uh,
picked himself? I don't know.
that would be
Hey, if
great.
that were to
That would be
happen,
great.
that would be
I would put
absolutely
my house.
insane.
I literally would
Well,
put my whole
wait.
house
Well, don't
on
say that.
Montreal not winning the cup.
So
No
hold on,
problem.
what percentage is higher? The chance of Montreal winning the cup or Florida finishing dead last?
Florida
Ooh.
finishing dead last is
Oh, they got
higher.
Maurice. It's easy
Yeah,
answer.
yeah. Florida finishing dead last has a higher chance of happening than Montreal winning the cup. It's a fact. Yeah, you just can't argue it. It's the way it is.
Love it.
True. Anything can happen, right? Like a couple more injuries to Florida, and you never know. They already got the perfect coach for it.
Mike's
So
got the
who
rabbit's
knows?
foot ready. Mike is ready.
Yeah. The stupid thing
Look
is
how
that
much
pick is
fun.
not protected.
Look how much fun Mike is having right now.
It's true. It's the most
Think
fun I've
about it.
had in
This is supposed to be
ages.
it's supposed to be our time, and we're miserable.
Well, hey, Dave,
That's
don't
the way it
don't
goes.
listen. I was miserable until Bergevin was gone from Montreal too. So that I know exactly what you're going through, but I was miserable because they had nothing. and I knew they had nothing. And I know that they went to the final, but I was still miserable because I knew that it was going to be a slaughter, like we talked about before. So you guys, you might be miserable now, but we know that it's near the end, one way or the other. This last year, Dubas is. We talked about all the scenarios. It's going to happen where they're going to get some new blood, a new plan. Yeah, they have some decisions to make, some big decisions to make on those core players. But trust me, you'll go back to enjoying the hockey again when you see some new blood, when you see some youth, when you see some guys that care, when you see some guys that they don't have to be the best, but they play hard. And you know what? I'm enjoying hockey again. It's been a long time since I've actually enjoyed watching
I
hockey.
know you're having fun. You even went to the finals 2 years ago.
I didn't enjoy any of that.
You
That's what I'm
didn't
Come
saying.
enjoy it.
I'm
on.
telling you,
He
Dave.
really didn't.
Oh, I was miserable, Dave. Miserable. I'm telling you. I know that sounds so bad, but it's because I think
It
with
really does.
as a
It
fan.
really does.
No, but I
Coming from
think.
Leaf fans that have not won a playoff fucking
Uh,
round, and this guy goes to the finals,
yeah, I
and he's
can't.
saying
He's
like it
miserable.
just it's a
Mike
hard
sounds,
conversation to
yeah,
listen to.
Mike is sounding like Marner today.
Oh, come on. I
Yeah.
I don't count I don't count playoff appearances and playoff
Oh my
rounds
God,
won.
my terrible
You
Ferrari. I have to drive my terrible
no no
Ferrari to the
no
corner store.
no. I count
Woe is
banners.
me.
I count banners that hang from the rafters with cups on them, not what do you call them?
Conference
Participation
finals.
participation awards. No, and that's the difference. So anyway, we don't have to, I don't even want to talk about that. That is over. Thank God Bergevin is gone, and I'm thinking of this new young team that we'll see how if they have what it takes down the road. So
There's
Mike,
hope. There's
tell
hope.
me this scenario. What is a scenario that can happen where Gooley is a Pittsburgh Penguin?
that's
Oh my God.
Oh,
how can you say that?
I
Like
I I
Why
just
would you
love that
even
guy.
think that?
I just love that guy.
well, he's a good young player. So right now
What a great young
he's
defenseman.
the best prospect the Canadians have. They actually have a couple of other good defensive prospects.
They
Um,
do. They
but
do.
but
Jordan,
but
is it Jordan Harris that
well,
they have playing right now?
they do. It is Jordan Harris. But I was thinking of two guys that aren't even in the league right now that are better than these guys that I think have the potential to be even
Better
better.
than Gooley and Harris?
I think better than Harris for sure. Gooley has shown me a lot more than I thought, but
Mhm.
Logan Mailloux is the guy that I have a lot of hope for. I know he's been much maligned because of what happened when he was drafted. We've That's been well documented, so we don't need to get into that. I'm just looking forward to him getting his hockey career started to see how he goes because he's got all the tools to be a Chris Pronger type of player, to be honest with you. And the second player that I'm really high on is a kid named Lane Hudson, who plays in the NCAA.
The little guy, the little
He's the
guy,
little
yeah.
guy. Yeah, this kid is dynamite with the puck.
Remember I was telling you about him. I was telling you about. I go, Hab's got a good one.
I
He's
yeah,
it's all upside with him.
I'm
If
excited.
you,
Yeah, he makes me
what's he
excited.
weigh? 140 pounds or
S-
something? Five
I,
foot
I
four.
yeah, he
Oh
weighs
boy.
140 pounds with a Snickers bar in his pocket,
I
probably.
was
Yeah,
shocked that Dubas didn't go after him. This is perfect guy for him.
yeah.
You guys got Justin Barron too, or is that who you?
Yeah, they got
That's not who you said.
No, I said Lane Hudson. Justin
Lane
Barron is the
Hudson.
guy they got from Colorado in the deal for Lehkonen at the end of the year last
Yeah,
year.
yeah, okay.
Barron didn't look great in camp though, so they sent him down, and he's playing in Laval. So hopefully he'll get a lot of minutes. Again, not giving up on that guy,
It's all
but
these prospects though, and then even the X-Men there.
yeah, well
I mean, he looks good. I mean, even if he's only a bottom pairing
yeah,
defenseman, I
he's a
don't know.
bottom, a good rugged defenseman. You need those guys to protect the house too. So I got a lot of love for those guys. But yes, I'm having fun watching with no expectations. You guys remember it too, back when the Leafs were sort of coming together. I can remember watching the Leaf team against Washington that first playoff year
Yeah,
when Babcock
That
was
was the
the
best
coach.
time.
That was the best time. You guys had
That was the
fun.
best
Lasted
time.
1 year, Mike.
Yeah,
It lasted 1 year.
yeah. And then
Our hope.
Boston got in your heads, and Friday the 13th kept happening over and over again. That's basically what.
Well, it's funny. Like for me, that second year, I think that was the last year with Lou, right? So it was that game. I'm trying to remember, guys. Which game was it where they lost at home, Game 6, and lost the series? Basically, that was the game.
I think that
Was
was
it the second time?
I think it was the second time. Yeah, I think
Okay,
so.
that for me that was because when they won in Boston Game 5, I started to believe that okay, it's like that next step. If they get over this Game 6 and win, it's like you feel like okay, now they're going to be that team that people are going to really start to believe in. And when they lost at home, I remember texting all my buddies going, "This one hurts, man. This was the game that they had to win."
Yeah.
And it's like after that, it just you've been expecting them to lose. We're just waiting for them to lose, and nothing's gonna change.
Yeah. All right, for our last segment, we're just going to do a quick roundtable on Stanley Cup predictions for this year. I don't know if you guys have given it any thought, but we're literally just going to give out our 4 predictions from each of us for this year. Who wants to go first? You can give a little bit of background as to why, too.
I'm gonna say that the Colorado Avalanche are gonna go back to back. I don't really see anybody who is gonna be able to class with them. Come playoff time, I just think that their front loaders are too strong and they're looking good already. So they're my pick right now.
All right, I'll go next. I'll say the Tampa Bay Lightning are going to win the Stanley Cup. It's hard to pick against Colorado, but just for the sake of it, I really think Tampa still has the team to get it done. They have that core. They're still hungry. They have the best goalie in the game. They have probably the best coach in the game. That desire to win is still there. So, and I also think that the road in the East, not to knock the Toronto Maple Leafs, but the road in their division is probably a little bit easier to get to the semis. So I think the road out of their division is just going to be that much easier for them, and I think that they're going to get it done this year, and they'll be winning 3 of the last 4 Stanley Cups.
I'm going to pick a Canadian team to win the cup.
Excuse
I
me?
think it's
Which
going to
one?
finally happen.
Wow,
Which one,
this is
Edmonton
the
or
Well,
Calgary?
well, if I had to go by teams that I've actually watched that look perfect, it's Montreal. But I'm not going to pick Montreal, obviously. I'm
Oh my
stumped.
God.
I had Edmonton from the beginning going to the finals, but this Calgary team just looks so good, and it's like if there's one team, it's going to be one of those two, in my opinion. I'm not sure which one. I need time to think about it.
no.
Do I
You
have
got
to make the
you got
call
to do it.
now?
You got to do
Okay,
it
I'll
now.
do mine. Give a minute. I'll do mine real
All
quick.
right.
I'm gonna stick with my original. I'm gonna stick with Edmonton.
All right.
Okay. What about mine is easy. Calgary and Carolina. Go ahead, Dave. Finish your thoughts though on who you want to face.
I
Edmonton's
think
going
it's
to
gonna
face
be
who?
the Rangers. I think it's gonna be the Rangers.
Oh, we didn't give the
It's a good
finals.
one.
I just gave the winner. I just gave literally the winner. You want us to do the finalists too?
Well, I mean,
Why not?
Okay.
All right, I got Colorado and Pittsburgh.
oh man, you and
Battle
your
of
Here we go.
McKinnon versus Crosby, baby. We're getting it one time in our lifetime.
I'm gonna say Tampa versus. I'm gonna say the Dallas Stars.
So you're saying that
Wow.
Corey Perry's
Nice.
going back to Dallas?
Yeah, that'll be a return. You're right,
Wow.
and he'll
That's
finally win.
amazing.
And he'll finally win.
Did you guys hear what the Nazem Kadri said to? I guess because he was part of the an Avalanche chat during the summer. He was, when he's about to sign with Calgary.
Yeah,
He
that was awesome.
did you guys hear what he read what he said?
No, I didn't.
So I'm gonna paraphrase it, but he said something like, he goes, "Hey guys, just letting you know, I'm signing with the Flames. I love you guys, but just so we're clear, basically saying like,
Keep
I
your
make
heads
no
up.
deals on the ice." Yeah, basically
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
And the next thing it said in the chat
He
was,
left.
Naz has left
left
the
the
chat.
chat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
Love
How do you
that, man. That's
freaking not love
amazing.
that guy? How do you not want that guy on your team?
I'm telling you, Calgary is incredible. Like I said from the beginning with that team, I just love the coach. Like right from preseason, okay, that was the best move you could do. He played the first time they played Edmonton in the preseason. He dressed the whole bloody team, the whole team, because he was gonna. It was just gonna make a point that this team was not gonna beat us. Like it's amazing. Like I love their attitude. I love their tenacity. Like the Leafs should just look over at them and say, "This is what you want to aspire to be. Like that's what you want to do. That's what like you take these games seriously. Like even the last game that they were down 2-0 to Vegas, and Vegas was playing a hell of a game. And then what does Huberdeau say? He goes, there was no way we're losing this game. Our big guy up there was not going to let that happen, meaning the coach.
Yeah.
It's just like that's what you want, right? You need a leader, and that's the problem. Like, I hate to keep going back to the Leafs, but unfortunately, we're Leaf-centric people over here, and Leafs don't have a leader. The Calgary has multiple, right? So, and that's what I mean. Like, come playoff time, like, who knows though, right? Like, look what happened against Edmonton. There was no reality that Calgary was going to lose to Edmonton, but unfortunately, like, Markstrom just forgot how to play goaltending. Like, I don't know what happened. I've never seen Markstrom play that bad in my life. If he just had like 900 save percentage, Calgary wipes the floor with Edmonton. But I have no idea what happened to him. So can that happen again this playoffs? Of course. Like, he's shown that he's had trouble, like, in tough situations. So you never know. But
Seems
I
like
don't
one
know.
of the
Calgary and Carolina, to me, are the two teams
oh,
that I think
those
are
are
going
two
to win.
good picks. Those are two good picks. But it seems like to me like Calgary or Edmonton, one of them's going to get Vegas, and that's going to be a crazy first round.
Yeah. Edmonton doesn't like, obviously the McDavid factor. He can just go out and win a game by himself, but they don't do anything to me. Like, I've watched them play. They look a lot like the Leafs. They look like they're in a lull the first two periods, and then all of a sudden the last third period, they're just like, okay, you know what, guys, time to turn it on. And then they'll come on, and like last game, they were outshot 22-4, I believe it was 22-4, and they still lost though, right? It was to Buffalo, right? It was Buffalo.
Yeah.
And like, that's the thing. Like, you can't do that. You need a sense of urgency. You need to have a plan. You need to come out prepared. And Edmonton hasn't done that. Even the first game that they won was against Vancouver, and Vancouver had a 3-0 lead.
Right.
And then even that game, Edmonton deserved to lose. They were on the power play. Edmonton was on the power play, and Hughes got stick in the face that wasn't called, and then 3 seconds later,
The puck was
Draisaitl
in.
scores.
Yeah, I remember.
So like if that play got called and it was another penalty, then Edmonton probably doesn't win that game. But just look, a little bit of luck, because Edmonton, that's what they think. If you give them any type of power play time, they're going to bury you because they have that much skill. But I don't know. We'll see. They
If
got
those
plenty of
two,
time to turn around.
I would definitely cheer for Calgary over Edmonton any day. Just they're fun to watch. I mean, the games I've seen Calgary this year, the bits I've seen, they look good. They look good.
Well, it's early, boys. We'll see if we're still. I think that we've earned the right. I think at some point in time during the year, we're gonna look back on these predictions and probably laugh at ourselves because we're gonna say, "What the hell happened to these teams after we picked them?" But we'll probably revisit this conversation before the end of the year to see how our teams are looking.
Sure, All-Star break, you have a better idea what's going on, right?
Yeah, for sure. And who
Especially-
knows, player movement and stuff like that. Like, stuff will come.
Especially Dave's
sure.
pick on the Rangers going to the finals. Well, that'll be a good one to laugh at.
You know
Oh,
what?
yeah?
That was my pick before the season started. Edmonton, New York, and I don't like changing
I'm just
things.
teasing.
Oh man, hey, listen. I know one team was not winning. That's a team in this city. Toronto's not winning anything. So.